Hi, I'm Dr. Jill Powers, and I am teaching Rachel Powers, AP Freshman English, Survey of American and British Literature for the spring semester of 2016. These are 19th and 20th century works, most of which are novels. Um, you know, as far as following along, any of you who want to follow along and kind of audit this course that she's taking, that's fine, but please understand I am going to disable comments because I have had to listen to these kind of comments from people, both from students and from parents and from administrators and from colleagues for 25 years, and most of the time they're not that helpful, and since it's internet, well, you can guess the rest. I'm not really interested in that. The only standards I need to stand up to are SACS, and that's it. Okay. So, that saying, I'm a retired English professor. I most recently taught at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. I was an associate professor of British literature there from 2003 through 2014. And I am teaching this course to Rachel because she is being homeschooled this semester. So I am doing this pro bono and gratis. This is completely free, and anyone else who wants to follow along, you're welcome to. I'm going to post it to YouTube, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. At Fisk, I taught British Surveys 1 and 2. I taught modernism, the Brownings, British novels, British abolitionist poetry, Gothic literature and film, literary criticism, continental masterpieces, core composition for freshmen. Most of my courses were core composition, and core varieties of literature, which is kind of like a world lit survey type thing for core. Anyway, I have also published in Conradiana, Intertext, and Interculture, so I am a published author. I specialize in literature and science for my PhD. I received my interdisciplinary PhD in English from Texas Tech University in 2001. I got my bachelor's and master's in English from the University of Texas at Arlington in 1990 and 1994, respectively. My dissertation was entitled The Science of Modernism, Degeneration, Dynamics, and Demons. And everything else I list on there for my biography, I list for Rachel. So, Rachel, I am going to I've already sent your mother my email, so she has my email, and she also has my phone number. And I've listed that on your syllabus, so I'm not listing that for anyone else. Haha. Materials you're going to need, Rachel, are pens and access to a PC, laptop, or tablet with Microsoft Word. If y'all don't have Microsoft Word, I would see if Missy can pick you up a copy of that, because you really need it in order to email me your work, okay? I had put Scantrons on your syllabus, but you're not going to need Scantrons because I don't have access to Scantron, okay? Spiral notebook you will need to take lecture notes from whenever you're listening to this. I don't want you just accessing the media. I want you physically taking notes, because you're going to be able to remember things a lot better if you write them down, okay? Access to a computer, like I said. And because you're going to be writing on the computer a lot, you need to have USB flash drives, okay? Always save your work. Never fail to do that, because if you do, you lose 40 pages like I did. When I was writing my dissertation, I had a computer crash, and I hadn't saved it to a backup disk. The whole computer was crashed, and it was gone, like that. So, please, don't let this happen to you. You're going to need access to an MLA style guide, and I would suggest you don't need to go out and buy a book for this, okay? You can go directly to www.purdue, that's PURDUE.edu. Go to their main page, scroll to the bottom, there's a link to the OWL, that's the Online Writing Center. They have an MLA guide in there that's perfectly fine for high school students. I was a member of MLA and SCMLA, that's South Central MLA, did conferences for them, and you know, they do change their standards from time to time on various little style things. So what we mean by style is how you're accessing research materials and documenting your sources. You always want to do that. When you're doing research, original research, there is a difference between your works and the works of these authors. So you're not going to be writing just strict understanding of biography. Yeah, you need to know that, and you need to be able to summarize it, but it's not going to comprise the whole of your work. Most of your work, I want to be an original thesis about whenever you're writing, so we can see how you're interpreting a work and how you're applying it in your own special way. Required text. Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice is what we're going to start with next week. So if you haven't started reading on those, you need to get started real quick. Okay, I'm going to have high expectations for your reading. You're going to stay really busy, Rachel. After that, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, Cask of Amontillado, The Masque of the Red Death, and The Telltale Heart, and I've added the little short story Hop Frog to that. And we're going to be, I hope that you're going to get access to the movies. You can get online access to the movies for Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Wuthering Heights, all of them. Masque of the Red Death and Hop Frog. I would like to go ahead and add The Pit and the Pendulum to that mix, just because it's a no favorite of mine. Nathaniel Hawthorne's Young Goodman Brown and Rappaccini's Daughter. There's no film for those, but those are classic Nathaniel Hawthorne. I'm not going to be reading Scarlet Letter, though, so you don't have to worry about that. We're doing short works. We're going to do some long works with Charles Dickens, and we're going to do quite a bit of work on him because he is a major author of mid-Victorian England. So David Copperfield, Christmas Carol, Tale of Two Cities, and Great Expectations we're all going to cover. I'm going to pretty much gloss those, though. You don't have to. You want to do as much close reading as you can, but we'll cover them pretty quickly. Herman Melville's Moby Dick, huge novel, very detailed and a bit complicated. You have to have some knowledge of the Bible, so you want to think about that. Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, which is a little short story that's pretty important influence. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Joseph Conrad was a giant of a novelist. I mean, not in stature, but in influence, certainly. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. William Goldberg's The Lord of the Flies. And Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea and The Sun Also Rises. There's two novels of Hemingway, so I'll get to show you some of my Hemingway stuff that when we went to the Hemingway house in Key West where he lived. I've also included for your perusal the online reference guides for Purdue, for the biographies. Any of the biographies on the authors you can look at online at onlineliterature.com or at the biography.com. Those are all good sites for biographies. And of course, if you want to go to the library, I would suggest a college library rather than a city library, but if you can find them in the city library, you can find them in the stacks. Those are the regular books you can check out. Oh, okay. I have to go over course objectives and things that are necessary that SACS requires for syllabi now, because our syllabi are considered contracts. Yeah, right. This course is designed specifically for Rachel Powers requirements for homeschooled high school freshman English, hopefully qualify for AP, and designed as a representative offering of various American and British literary works. Most of novels, but we'll include some poems and some short stories as well. Ranging from 19th century to the 20th century. A little bit of background before that we'll go over, just because you need to know certain things. I can't teach an actual survey like Beowulf to this. It just, that wouldn't work very well for this purpose. Some of these I'm sure that you may have read already, but we want to go over them. Certainly, to qualify as AP, they have to be college level type of courses. So you'll be expected to read these representative works, participate in class discussion, and we'll get together and do that. And take reading quizzes, take comprehensive midterms, and write papers. Okay. So, how are we going to do this? You're going to understand, hopefully, the dynamics of American British literature as a reflection of canonical literary sensibility. In other words, that these were published works at the time that were of great influence on other works. If they're non-canonical, that means that there's not a whole lot of criticism that was written on them. It's not that they're not worthy of being covered, it's just that I can't cover all the works of American and British novels and short stories and poetry and everything else in that time. So, how do we define literature? Well, literature is writing that reflects the existence of humanity with all its strengths, weaknesses, assets, and problems, essentially reflecting a total culture. It's important to learn these works, because if you don't, you're not going to do well in college, and it doesn't matter what college you're going to. Learn about the influences and develop the course of the history of American and British literature, and understand that American literature comes from British literature, okay? And there's a reason why we call it English. It's written in English. It's not written in some other language. It's not written in French. It's not written in Spanish. It's not written in Swahili. It's not written in Indian. It's not written in any other language. It's not written in Japanese, right? It's English. And these are from English canons. A lot of the works that you get in these, they have managed to include over the years other works that are now being written about a lot more, but these are standard staples of the canons. Learn the history of form and methodologies for these works as a rhetorical and contextual in the context in which they were written, okay? Form and methodology, that means how they were written, why they were written the way they were. They were written in a particular style. They're all these authors have different styles, and they come out of who these authors are. So we need to learn about the authors who wrote the works, why they wrote them, and how they went about it. And hopefully, learn an appreciation for American and British writers and their contributions to the canons of literature. Okay. Student learning outcomes. I want you to be able to read assigned works during the course of the schedule designated. Now, I realize, Rachel, you're being homeschooled, but I do expect you to turn in assignments on time. You know, I always try to explain to my students, you know, when you get out of school and you have a boss, they're not going to go for it if you just say, well, I just didn't feel like doing my work today, or if I didn't feel like coming in, I slept too late. Bye. Have a nice trip. They're not going to go for that. You need to be able to do assignments and turn them in. When you miss deadlines, it means that you're unreliable and that they can't count on you when they need you. So, you know, if you got a project or something that's due and you don't show up or you don't have it, that's pretty important, all right? We're going to be able to identify authors and works studied in the class. We're going to identify themes, exponents. By themes, major ideas, major elements of ideas in the works. Exponents, things like the plot, the characters, those kinds of things. And historical data associated with authors and work studies. We're also going to look at a little bit of the linguistics of these works, how they were formulated, such as if they're might be influenced by particular other kinds of works. Okay, going to find that out right away with Jane Austen, that she immediately exposes us to other novels. Okay, other authors, including Shakespeare. So we need to know about those. You need to be able to locate the arguments made by the authors in the works assigned. You know, that's very important to understand. These are not academic papers. You don't have a thesis that's very explicit and that appears in your first paragraph, and all of your exposition is very candid and forthcoming in a very explicit way. That's not how these kinds of works of fiction work. Okay. It's a matter of exposition and reading between the lines and seeing what the author is trying to tell you. So you're going to have to figure out what is the main idea that these authors are going for. Why are they writing it? You're going to be able to identify characteristics of the periods in which the authors produced the works and apply them to how the era influenced the development of the works. You're going to be able to write in response to questions posed by me as seeds for class discussion. In other words, you're going to be able to answer questions on your own terms. You're going to be able to write small interpretive essays and larger research essays to ascertain your awareness of crucial issues in these texts, creating scholarly questions and theses of your own design and interest. That's very important that you do this in terms of creating your own subject for thesis. Okay? You can find the subject easily, but trying to decide what you want to say about it, that's going to come very much out of your interpretation. Not my interpretation, but yours. Okay? Going to be able to discuss the course content with confidence to understand the representative period we're studying. Okay. The means, we're going to have reading quizzes, one interpretive essay with primary source only. That means that you're just going to be using the work that we're reading as your source. So it's going to be mainly interpretive from your standpoint. No other research will I allow on that particular essay. You're going to have an objective multiple choice midterm exam, one large research essay for the end of the semester, and a final exam, which will be a short answer test. Okay. Your quizzes will comprise 20% of the total grade, 20% of the midterm exam, will be for midterm exam, 15% for your first paper, the interpretive essay, and then 25% for your research essay, and 20% for your final exam. So those all come to 100%. Assignments are due on the assigned dates. You're responsible for getting all assignments in on time. Latest major assignments will be reduced 1 letter grade for every class day that they are late. Well, we won't have class days, but I will expect them within a week of their being assigned. Okay. You will be able to just email me those. If you miss work, if you miss getting work in, I expect those to be made up immediately. Okay. We need to stay on focus, because we can easily get off track, and if we do that, I may have to drop works. Okay, and we'll discuss that. When you turn in your work, you can email it to me. I do want you to keep copies of your work. I will print these out, and I will personally grade them. I will write on them, and I will scan them and send those back to you. Or I will give them to you whenever we meet. I do want to meet with you once a month to go over some materials and kind of get a grip on where we're standing. Okay, have an in-person lecture and kind of a focus group type of thing. Okay. You can keep your work in a pocket folder. It can be with or without brads. If you get the kind with brads, don't actually use the brads, just put it in the pockets. Never throw away assignments. That's the evidence of your work. If SACS or AP comes back and they want to see evidence of your work, that you will have it. Okay. This is not about student ego. It's not about being a special little snowflake. It's about learning to follow a methodology within given authoritative parameters. I know how some of you kids feel about authority. Yeah, respect my authority, okay? Establish a discipline of reading and writing and show that you can do that. You know, because I've been around for, 1.5 century now, and I've been able to demonstrate my mastery of the subject. It is your job to demonstrate the mastery of the subject. The grading standards are A, B, C, D, or F. This is not a pass-fail class, and I will give you a numeric grade for each of these, each of the works that you do. Okay. That A is superior work, B is excellent work, C is average work, D is needs improvement, and F is failing. I can tell you that it ranges from superior work. Student often and almost always does more than they're expected to do, and then it reduces gradually until F, where the student doesn't do much of anything of what I tell them to do. So if they don't, they don't. I'm using the Paul Elder model of critical thinking, which applies Aristotle's appeals, logos, ethos, and pathos. Logos is logic and form, structure of thesis, argument, and reasoning. Ethos is ethical considerations, such as avoiding plagiarism and that kind of thing. Pathos concerns emotional appeal of the works. How creative are you, and what kind of window are you giving to your audience, and how much of this work is really yours? It does come from you as a person. It's just like the computer asking you, are you a person? Well, you're not, are you? Yeah. I have 5 criteria for assignments of individual grades. The first of which is clarity and significance of thesis. Is your thesis focused? Second, management and development of thesis claim. Did you research and organize your ideas and form? Third, stylistic maturity and variety. How do you put together words, sentences, and paragraphs? How do you explain and connect concepts? Fourth, correctness in usage, grammar, and mechanics. How's your editing? And 5, following the assignment. Last but not least, that's very important, being able to follow the assignment. I've had students who had ADD, ADHD, who couldn't follow the assignments. And, there's only so much leeway that a teacher can give. And if a student can't follow the parameters of a particular assignment and actually do what they're asked to do, they're not going to be able to hold a job either. It's if that seems a bit harsh to you, well, sorry, that's life isn't always fair, is it? But that is fair. It is fair. There is a certain level. Not everybody's going to be able to get a high school diploma, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD. It just depends upon your level of skill and your ability to get done with the program. And if you can't, well, what can I say? Such is life. Okay, MLA style used for documentation and form. Writing your essay on the topics and texts we discuss in class. You may not write over text not covered in class. Okay, when we do the writing assignments, I expect you to answer questions about what we've read. Please read every text from your required text. Do not expect to pass class merely by reading Cliff Notes, Spark Notes, Barron Notes, or other such study aids. This is not the same as reading the text, ever, 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 ever. Okay. Oftentimes, they may be inaccurate. They may get off topic. And you often can't locate and identify the contributing author or their work to cite it anyway. So what good is it? If you can't use it as a critical source, well, I just say I don't accept those as critical sources. I also don't accept encyclopedias. I don't accept any kind of canned response like that. I don't accept dictionaries. Those are filler sources. Okay, those are for your personal reference. They're not supposed to be used as critical sources. So it's one of the first things I teach my students in my composition classes. You can't use them. You can't use them for college. Okay, don't. And don't use the internet overly much. Learn to use the library. We're going to go on a library tour. I'm going to schedule us a library tour. We're going to find a library that we can go and look at the stacks. Okay. Attendance. Principal reason students fail or receive low grades in English classes is because of excessive absences and tardiness. However, this is an online course. Attendance means that you have to get up and get your butt in action and read the text and do the assignments and talk to me regularly. Don't just disappear. Don't leave me to guessing, because I will just sit here and say, okay, you're not serious about this. All right. Conduct in class should be such it shouldn't interfere with it. I always say this, I don't think I'm going to have a problem with Rachel if this is. I reserve the right to change tentative schedule or assignments as needed. So assignment content, due date, or class content is not subject to a student's whim. You can't just decide, oh, this is my opinion, to quote someone else we know. Right, Rachel? Yeah, that's not just my opinion. I demand that they be done within a certain time. Study time. Rachel, you're going to have to hit the books. Barron's Guide for Colleges generally recommends that students spend at least 2 to 3 hours study time for each semester hour you're taking. And for your level, what that means is you need to be hitting the books at least that every day. Okay, on a bare minimum. If you're going to keep up with AP standards, you really need to be doing that. And you know, I find the way that the classes are being taught in the high schools, they teach you the content, but they don't allow you to actually discuss anything or have any original ideas. I'm not going to teach a course like that. I refuse to. I taught as a substitute teacher at Arlington Bowie one time, where we studied Dante and then Swift's Gulliver's Travels, and I started trying to talk about Gulliver's Travels, and the student raised their hand and said, "You can't talk about religion or politics in these classes." And I said, "Excuse me, young man, but how do you discuss Dante or Jonathan Swift, for God's sake, without the context of religion and politics?" He would have nothing to say except, "Oh, this is the way the story goes." Ew. What do you think that this is what we mean by why they write these works the way they do? You know, no wonder the kids aren't learning anything. My God. Do not depend upon old, lax study habits, which may or may not be adequate, especially in regard to reading assignments and preparing for quizzes, exams, and essays. You're going to be on your own recognizance in regard to completing reading assignments. That other than reading quizzes, that's the only barometer I have for measuring how you're doing in those. Okay. Plagiarism and academic dishonesty. You're expected to adhere to an academic honor code. In other words, you're not going to offer the work of another as your own without proper acknowledgement, which is plagiarism, regardless of whether the work is copyrighted or not. If you take it from the themes or works of other students, if you take it online somewhere, it's plagiarism. Yeah, I know we live in a digital age where you can easily go in and download a song and you don't pay for it, and not in academia. We don't do that in academia. You have to acknowledge work that you're taking. If you don't use quotations, and you know, at least if you are taking the work and putting it in your own words, you still need to cite it. Okay. Any student who fails to give credit for quotations or essentially identical expression of material taken from copyright materials or from the themes, reports, or other writings of a fellow student, you get another student to write it for you, that's collusion. Okay, can't do that either. Is guilty of plagiarism, intentional or not. And if I see something and I see suspect, I'm going to nail you. I'm pretty good at that. Violations will be subject to my judgment. Students who cheat need to consider they cheat themselves. I know that people do it all the time. Even if you don't get caught, you lose, because sooner or later, in order to get through upper level classes, you have to know how to write essays both in and out of class for tests, research, and publishing for some professions. So, you know, you have to learn it eventually anyway, and just putting it off is not a good idea. Most students don't realize how easy it is for an experienced English teacher to see that work is not a student's own. Sudden massive improvements in style, word choice, organization, etc. If you don't have a very big vocabulary, and suddenly you start using $10 words, and you start throwing around words like deconstruction and other things I know that you have no experience with. Well, these all enabled me to check your real progress against phony ones, so don't do it. It isn't worth the cost. I will nail you. Okay, that said, Rachel, for our first week, I want you reading Jane Austen. I want you to read some of the biography I sent you that I sent to your mother for you to look at. I'm working on some assignments for you to get started on some questions. We want to start with Sense and Sensibility. If you've already started with Pride and Prejudice, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. Sense and Sensibility was written two years before Pride and Prejudice, which is considered the major work of Jane Austen. But we want to look at that first. My next lecture is going to be on a little bit of background of the British authors and how that affects the American, particularly as we go into the 19th century and the age of Romanticism. So anyway, I will see you later, Rachel. Bye.